We are on Unit 5, Section 2. This is, just in case you're reading in the book, this is page 542. We're Chapter 16, Section 4. I can write all that. Chapter 16, Section 4. The Soviet Union under Stalin. Okay, so first, you guys know we had Karl Marx. And Marx's dream was that the workers of the entire world were going to unite together. No more countries, no more nations, one people, workers of the world unite. And Lenin took Marx's ideas and kind of based his idea of communism on Marx's ideas. Well, it wasn't exactly what Karl Marx wanted. It was what Lenin wanted, loosely based on what Karl Marx wanted. Well, now Lenin has died and Stalin has taken charge. Stalin says that he's based on Lenin and Marx's ideas, but Stalin goes way off different. He goes way, way different than anything Marx had ever really talked about. So if you ever hear someone say that Stalin was a Marxist and Stalin takes Karl Marx to an extreme, it's just not true. Stalin was very different. He was a totalitarian, authoritarian ruler, and everything had to be done his way, and that was not Karl Marx. All right, so Stalin had this grand idea of how to fix the Soviet Union because, you know, everything was still really far behind in Russia and the other Soviets compared to Western Europe. And he had this fantastic idea to push the Soviet Union forward. And he called that his 5-year plan. He ended up having several 5-year plans, but this is the first one, his big 5-year plan. And what he was going to do with his 5-year plan was make a command economy. A command economy. And this is where the government takes 100% control of the entire economy. Now, remember, with Karl Marx and with Lenin, people had quite a bit of freedom to control their own personal private property and what they did with their lives. The whole idea was just everyone's going to work together to make everyone's life better. In Stalin's command economy, the government takes over all control. They took over control of everything. And the idea was to make the Soviet Union better. Let me put it up here, his 5-year plan. So for his 5-year plan, he began building heavy industry. This means the industry making big things like metals and bridges and machinery, improving transportation, like more buses, more trains, more cars, just making transportation around the Soviet Union better, and increasing farm output. So making the farms create more food. He got mixed results. Mixed results means some good results, some bad results. Stalin put really, really strict quotas on factories. A quota is how much you must make in a certain period of time. Let's say, I don't know, let's say he said, I don't know, I'm trying to think. Let's say it's a coffee mug factory. And at the coffee mug factory, Stalin says you must make 5,000 mugs per week. Sorry, I forgot one thing. They used to make only 4,000 mugs a week. In the past, they made 4,000 mugs a week. Stalin now says they must make 5,000 mugs a week. Well, for the factory owners, the government owned the factory. For the factory managers, the factories that actually succeeded and made 5,000 mugs a week, they got some kind of an award. The factory managers that didn't make 5,000 a week, sometimes they were killed. Sometimes they were sent to prison. There was always some kind of punishment. And so there was this real intense fear of not being able to make 5,000 mugs a week because nobody wants to go to the gulag or be killed or any other kind of punishment. So what happened was the factories started making really, really low quality products. They might make really cheap coffee mugs that when I pick it up, the handle breaks off. Or if I knock it on, if I'm going cheers with someone, my mug shatters. So they started speeding up produce. But while speeding it up and making more and more and more, the quality went really far down. But because they were making more and more and more stuff, between the years of 1928 and 1939, the industry of the Soviet Union really did grow. Industry grew a lot. But the poor were still poor. The poor were still poor. They kept salaries, they kept wages low. And they did a big, big problem with this was kind of inefficient planning. Inefficient planning. Stalin, he did things like, I'm going to go back to my coffee cup analogy. He told the factory they had to make 5,000 coffee mugs every week. But who's going to buy all those coffee mugs? Like, nobody wants that many coffee mugs. And so they were making and making and making and making all these products, but there weren't necessarily people to buy them. But other things, there was underproduction. So overproduction, but other things were underproduction. Maybe they were making all these coffee cups, but they weren't making any refrigerators. Like, people need refrigerators. So they would overproduce some things, underproduce other things, and then of the things that were being overproduced, the quality was really low. And things that people don't necessarily really need, like, I don't know, let's say expo markers. They were all over the market. The stores were full of all kinds of just like crap nobody really needed. But the things that people really did need, like clothing, cars, refrigerators, they were almost impossible to find. There weren't any in the stores. They weren't available. And so this was some poor oversight. Oversight is like the boss that's over everyone else, that's telling people what to do. Stalin was telling people, make this, make this, make that, but he wasn't really thinking about what the people need. Now, Lenin had redistributed land and given peasants land. Like when he was around, hopefully you remember that there was a big thing because the rich people had land and the poor people didn't have anything, and there were riots and the peasants were taking over the rich people's land. Well, Lenin came in and broke up the land. There were like, if this was one rich person's farm, and then there were, draw my little stick figures. Let's say there were, I'm going to make 6. There were 6 people over here that are sad because they have no land. These people have no land at all. And this one rich guy has all this land. Lenin went in and broke the land up. He went, no, I should have made that. Should have done that. Let's go here. Lenin gave person A this land, person B this land, person C this land, person D this land, person E this land, person F this land. And I should have done it a little bit differently because really the rich person would have kept a little land. But he broke it all up so that everyone could have a little land. Well, Stalin came in, and that's why all the people liked Lenin. Stalin came in and took it all away. Stalin said, nope, all of this land belongs to the government. This was part of his command economy. Now the government owns it all. The government tells people exactly what they can do and what they can't do. The government did forced collectives. They took, I'm gonna keep that in your mind. Under Lenin, all that land that was broken up, person A owned it. It was person A's property now. Person B, it was person B's property. But Stalin came in and did forced collectives. Now all of this becomes one farm, and they all had to grow exactly what the government told them to grow. They had to use the equipment the government told them to use. Everything was controlled by the government. And the state set all the prices. There was no free economy. So if they're growing corn, the state told them exactly how much they could sell that corn for. Some people resisted this. They did not appreciate Stalin coming in, taking everything that was theirs and saying, this belongs to the government now. And they did some pretty drastic things. Some of them refused to grow food. They killed their own, well, they weren't their own animals, they were the government's animals, but they killed the animals. They refused to grow food. They refused to participate in Stalin's idea of communism. In 1929, Stalin got it in his mind that this rebellion, this refusal to participate in the government was all controlled by the kulaks. Kulaks were wealthy farmers. And remember, before, some of these farmers were wealthier. Like, there was the guy that was originally the rich guy. If he was originally rich, he's probably still rich. Let's say, I don't know, this farmer A had come over here and had grown corn, and farmer B had decided to grow tomatoes. Well, people liked tomatoes more, and so farmer B made a lot of money and farmer A didn't. But that's just the luck of the draw. But so some of them were wealthier than others. And Stalin decided that this rebellion against him and against his policy was run by the rich, the wealthy farmers. And he decided to liquidate the kulaks. I don't know if you know what liquidate means, but it means to get rid of. He decided to get rid of the kulaks. And how did he do that? Well, he killed a whole bunch of them, and he sent a bunch of the rest, he sent the rest to the gulag. So he just got rid of them. He took all the wealthy farmers and either killed them or sent them to work camps. And this was called the anti-kulakization. Anti-kulakization. That's not, let me, kulakization. Anti-kulakization. So after his anti-kulakization, a bunch of the peasants were really angry, and they decided to continue rebelling against. They refused to grow crops for the state, flat out refused. They said, we will not grow crops for the state. And they just grew just enough food to feed their own family, and they refused to obey the government's orders. Well, that backfired on them because Stalin sent government thugs to go and take all the food from these poor farmers, all the food that they had, the little bit that they had grown for their family. They went in and took it all from them and purposely left them to starve to death. It was really bad. So when that happened, it caused a famine. 5 to 8 million people died in the Ukraine alone. 5 to 8 million in the Ukraine died. Do you want to know how many Kazakhs died? Of course you do, because we're living in Kazakhstan. At least 2 million Kazakhs starved to death because of this action of Stalin. Stalin told the farmers, They had to grow what he wanted to grow and sell what he wanted, sell for the price that he wanted. They refused to obey. And at least 2 million people in this country right here starved to death during the terror famine. Why is it called the terror famine? Because Stalin was trying to invoke terror on the people. Do what I say or you will starve to death. Also, one more little bitty thing. Not really little bitty. I was kind of being sarcastic when I said that. At this time, 2 million people was half the population of Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan population was 4 million before the terror famine and was 2 million after the terror famine. This was a dark, dark, hard, bad time. All right. So, collectivization and the command economy did eventually help Stalin have control of the people, but it didn't really help with farm output. They never did. The farms never did make more food like his plan was. And feeding the population was a real problem. Okay, so Stalin led his Soviet Union with terror. Some of his terror tactics were the secret police. The secret police are police officers that are undercover. Like they don't wear, you can't look at them and know that they're police. They just hang out and they might be at the coffee shop at the table next to you and you're just hanging out talking and they're listening to what you're saying to your friends and then they go and report you. The secret police. They would also bug your telephone, put little listening devices in your phone, torture. Anyone that spoke ill of Stalin was tortured, and purges. A purge is when Stalin would go in and murder anyone that didn't agree with him. And he would just randomly say, okay, we're having a purge. We're going to go kill everybody. Many crimes against humanity. Violated individual rights. But according to Stalin, there really were no individual rights. Your private letters were read. There was no such thing as privacy. Private letters read. It would be like in this class, if you guys were here in person, and I just randomly picked up all your phones and flipped through all your text messages and all your social media and read everything you said. Well, that's what it was like for them. They didn't have phones. They had to actually write each other letters. The news was completely controlled by the state. So you weren't really getting the real news. You were just getting what Stalin's government wanted you to hear. And anyone that spoke badly at all about Stalin or Stalin's version of communism sent to the gulags. Now we've got the Great Purge. This one was tough. So Stalin was constantly afraid that people were out to get him. He always thought somebody was after him. And in 1934, he announced the Great Purge. He was going to go through the entire Soviet Union and kill anyone that was even remotely against him. If you said one teeny tiny little thing bad about Stalin or his Communist Party, he was going to kill you. He killed old Bolsheviks. And I mean, this is sad. These were Lenin's people that did the whole communist revolution that everybody was happy about. But because Stalin had changed communism so much, he was afraid that these people were trying to kill him to take communism back to what Lenin had started. He killed army heroes. Anyone that was a hero from fighting for the Soviet Union in World War I, he killed them because he was afraid they might turn on him and come after him. He killed factory managers because he was afraid they might be upset with all of his quotas put on them. You know, remember when I said if they didn't meet the quotas, he would kill them? So they would, you know, have a reason to not really like him. So he just killed them. He killed writers. He killed plain old ordinary citizens. You know, he had a secret police. If you were just out at a coffee house with your friend, chit-chatting, and somebody said something that a secret police overheard you say, you're dead. He killed all counter-revolutionaries and anyone that he thought was a counter-revolutionary. And these were like accused. That's the thing. A lot of these people were actually innocent. It was a big, all anyone had to do was say, I heard that person say something bad about the Communist Party. They were dead. They were dead. And so this purge increased Stalin's power because now everyone that was even remotely against him is dead. So everybody that's still alive clearly supports him. They like Stalin and they're all for him. So his power got even stronger. But here's the thing that really hurt the USSR. Look, writers, these are the smart people. He killed college professors. He had already before, he had killed all the wealthy farmers that probably really were like the best farmers that really knew the most about farming. He killed college professors. So he killed all the smart people. He killed factory managers. He killed the people that knew how to run the factories. He killed the people that knew how to run the farms. He killed the army heroes. He killed all the old revolutionaries. He was killing and killing and killing. These are all your top people from society. Like the really, really intelligent, hardworking people that run society. He had just purged them all. A full half of all military leaders dead. Half of all military leaders gone. This is going to be a real problem for him pretty soon when World War II comes along. He's killed off all of his military leaders. So there was a great propaganda push. And Stalin made himself to the Soviet people appear to be a god, really. There were posters glorifying Stalin everywhere. If you went out to the movies, there was always a little intro to the movie about how great Stalin was. And there really was a whole cult, like a religion around Stalin, of turning him really into a god. Let's see here. The official newspaper of the Soviet Union was called the Pravda, which means truth. Do you think it was really telling the truth? No. It told anything Stalin wanted you to believe was printed in this newspaper. And the name of the newspaper was Truth. So of course people believed it. They believed it was the truth because it says it's the truth. Come on. The government is publishing it. The government would never do anything wrong. The government cares about its people. And the name of the newspaper is the Truth. Everybody knows it must be the truth. You guys, I hope that you're learning a lot about propaganda in my class, because just because something is called the Truth newspaper does not mean it's telling you the truth. And everything was censored, everything. Artists were only allowed to do pro-Stalin's Communist Party art. If they didn't, it was either killed or the gulags. Music had to be patriotic music about the Soviet Union. And if it wasn't, they were killed or gulags. Then Stalin started with Russification. Russification. What do you guys think this means? Do you see this? Rus? Yes. He started in the beginning of the Soviet Union. All the Soviets were joined together. And overall, they were called, it was the Soviet Union. They were friends. But eventually, Stalin started saying, no. All these people, they have to be Russian. That's why right now in Kazakhstan, people speak Russian. I know some people speak Kazakh also, but here in Almaty, most people speak Russian because Stalin said in all the Soviet Unions, business must be done in Russian. School must be taught in Russian. And he started forcing Russian culture on all the other Soviets. And so they started forgetting their own traditional ways. People started forgetting Kazakh. I've met lots of Kazakhs here in Kazakhstan that don't speak the Kazakh language. This is why, just in case you're listening to my voice right now and you are a Kazakh citizen, this is why you have to take Kazakh language and Kazakh history here at this school, because the Kazakh government is trying to regain your own culture. And I support it. I think it's pretty cool. the Kazakh government is trying to have a rebirth of Kazakh culture because Stalin forced Russian culture on all the Soviets. And it's not that there's anything wrong with the Russian culture. I'm just saying that, like, Stalin forced his culture on all these other Soviets, and it made people forget their own traditional music. It made them forget their own traditional arts, their own traditional dance styles, even their own language. He wanted all the Soviets to be just like little Russias. He also, another thing that he did was he took all the leading government positions in all the Soviets. Stalin put Russians in charge. All the government positions, the top government positions, Russians got them in all the Soviets. So this was Russia, Uzbek, Tajik, Armenia, Azerbaijani, Belarusian, Georgia, Kazakh, Kyrgyz, Turkmen, and Ukraine. All of those. He forced them to only speak Russian and took locals out of government positions and put Russians in and forced the Russian culture on these Soviets. He also had a great war on religion. Stalin did not like religion. He was super atheist and wanted everyone in the entire Soviet Union to forget religion and be an atheist. The Russian Orthodox Church had supported the Tsar. They never wanted a revolution at all, even from the beginning. They supported the Tsar. And so religious leaders were seen as counter-revolutionaries. And what do you think happened to them? You got it. They were murdered, tortured, or sent to the gulags. Yay! And he replaced religion, like believing in a God, with belief in the state. People took that like religious belief that they had once had and turned that belief directly to Stalin and his Communist Party. And they had the same fervent belief, but now it was in communism and Stalin. Stalin's version of communism. So Stalin's idea, I can't express this enough. Stalin's idea of communism really was like a complete mockery of Marx and Lenin's ideas of communism. Stalin had taken what Marx originally dreamed up and turned it into something so sick and horrifying. I mean, it was really bad. He was nothing but terror. The name Stalin should really invoke terror in you. And that is not what Marx wanted. It is not what Marx wanted. It's not what Lenin wanted. I guess he was a communist because he called himself a communist. If you call yourself a communist, you're a communist, right? If you say you spread the truth, if you say the name of your newspaper is Truth, then is it the truth? I don't know. But just understand that Karl Marx would not have been happy with Stalin at all. They're so very, very different. In Stalin's communism, most of the people were poor, but taken care of. Now, I can't say it was all bad. Stalin provided free housing. The thing is, sometimes your entire family had to live in one room, but still, it was free housing. He provided free basic health care. He provided free education. There was free school, free healthcare, free housing, and everyone had at least a little to eat. But his loyal people, the people in Stalin's inner circle that were really, really loyal and dedicated to him, they lived a life of luxury. They had really nice apartments. They had fancy cars. They got to shop in the shops that had everything that the normal everyday person couldn't get. And let's see here. What else? Free education. Oh yeah, free daycare for children so you could work. And both women and men could work. If you remember that under Mussolini's fascism, women were supposed to be in the home making babies for the state. But in Stalin's communism, women and men could both work. And women weren't stuck doing just lowly jobs. They could do anything. They could be scientists, they could be doctors, they could be mathematicians. Any job that a man could do, a woman could also do under Stalin's communism. Let's see here. Just a little bit left. We're going back in time right now. In 1919, Lenin created this thing called the Comintern, which means Communist International. This was an organization that was to encourage communist, I'm just going to put encourage communist revolution worldwide. And they funded and trained revolutionaries around the world. Revolutionaries. And they encouraged people to rise up against imperialism. So the Comintern, Communist International, was this organization that was for encouraging communist revolution all around the world. They funded and trained revolutionaries all around the world, and they encouraged people in colonies to revolt against their colonizers, encouraged them to revolt against imperialism. And why am I telling you about that? Because in the 1920s, there was this huge fear called the Red Scare. In the United States. And everyone in the United States was terrified of communists. The communists are out to get you. The communists are out to get you. All the movies that were made, the bad guys were always communist. When kids played outside, the good guys would be Americans and the bad guys would be the commies. Communists were always the bad guys. Because of this, in 1926, Britain cut off all diplomatic ties to the Soviet Union because they discovered an actual plot for a communist revolution in Britain. So 1926, Britain cut off all ties. But if you remember, I talked about earlier, the Soviet Union's economy under Stalin really did grow because he was forcing these factories to produce. So their economy was growing. And with wealth comes power. Money means power, always. So they became wealthier, they became more powerful, and when they became more powerful, they joined the League of Nations. But there was a whole bunch of mistrust. It was kind of like none of the other League of Nations people really felt comfortable around the Soviet Union, but they're this rich, powerful nation, so we want them to be in our club. We want to invite them to our club, but we don't really want to be around them. And I had to tell you all that so you could have this frame of mind when we move into World War II pretty soon, because Russia, the Soviet Union was there. They were part of the League of Nations. They were wealthy, they were powerful, but everybody was a little uncomfortable around them. Okay, that's it for lecture 2. I will see you in class.